In design, if you have unlimited time, unlimited money, and no criticism, you don't work well. But that's not the reality we can live with.
That was Korean Seki, the Chief Marketing Officer of Srishti Institute of Art Design and Technology, talking about innovation. The reality is that we are limited in time, resources, and people. We have to come to terms with this.
Hey guys, thank you for tuning in. This is Innovation for Dummies, and we are Abhishek and Saili. This podcast was created by a class of struggling design students who are trying to wrap our heads around this thing called innovation. Through this podcast, we want to look at how we navigate the new and shiny in India and how we adapt to our various constraints.
After working on some projects in the social sector, we realized that we often struggle to place Western theories and models in a country like ours. We also try to explore new ways of changing how we innovate and make systems more inclusive of disadvantaged people. This podcast will contain quotes from a series of lectures along with our own research and understanding about the various aspects surrounding innovation.
Okay, just what in the world is innovation?
According to Stephen Shapiro, author of Best Practices Are Stupid, good innovation is about surviving and thriving. We are in a time of unprecedented change, which has rendered past strategies for growth irrelevant. Companies need to improvise, adapt, and evolve to keep up. The impact of innovation is seen when it comes to delivering social impact and business growth.
Innovation in the social space has been defined by Sarah Avlod as solutions to immediate social problems that are aimed towards sustainable social transformations. In India, inequalities exist in terms of caste, religion, and income due to many socio political histories. Many people with whom we have interacted have spoken about how the speed and scale of commercial innovation becomes irrelevant while working in the social sector, one of whom was Shaun Gupta from Philips Design Labs, who spoke about how designing solutions for the underserved in India is a much more complex matter.
Another person who spoke about this was Akshay Rumta of Uloy Labs. He has worked with water quality, sanitation, community development, and livelihood generation. He spoke about how social innovation is often slow and only successful when separated from funding and project cycles.
Kelly AM, in her article Understanding the Differences Between Commercial and Social Innovation, talks about how social innovation must confront disparity, whereas there is no imperative for commercial innovation to do the same. It relies on social capital and trust, and tries to move beyond simple transactional research methods. The main objective is often to develop communities and individuals through co creation.
On the other side, companies play the game of innovation to monopolize the market in order to sustain themselves. Berman and Schumpeter talk about, and I quote, routinized innovation activities and how the objective is to increase efficiency in the use of resources to offer goods and services that are ultimately designed to optimize returns. Kaushik from Belong.co spoke about how growth and innovation go hand in hand and is incentivized in different ways. He explained how growth is oxygen for companies. It offers them the chance to employ the best talent, pitch to investors, and secure higher quality funding.
Innovative organizations have a few traits and perspectives in common. We have collected some of the most important from experts in the field and through case studies. Innovative organizations are inclusive and people oriented. Having a deep understanding of your customers and the way they negotiate their choices, constraints, and their resources is often the primary driver of innovation. Kaushik spoke about how companies usually try to offer the most value for the least price. I quote, often companies orient their offering through the value cost trade off to provide enough value to the product for its price to the consumers. This is a negotiating factor for the companies to either focus on value or cost, which are both people centric. Unquote.
I Got Garbage aims to have inclusivity at the heart of its business model. It is an initiative to create zero waste cities while empowering waste pickers as well. The average life expectancy of a rack picker is 39 years. during which they are often exposed to dangerous materials and direct pollution. The firm wants to help them transition out of the informal economy and create jobs through recycling entrepreneurship.
Innovative companies often work in multidisciplinary setups. Sean from Philips spoke about how their design labs have a development phase that is deeply collaborative. Here, doctors, scientists, biotechnology engineers, designers, marketing managers work as a part of a single team. This fosters collaboration among various professions in order to create an impactful product or service. Philips has always envisioned to co create a space where ideas and suggestions are accepted from various fields of knowledge, including the stakeholders. This platform enables anybody to participate in the design process, irrespective of the field or background.
Experimentation is necessary to fail quickly and cheaply. It is the process of spending a little to learn a lot. This is often not encouraged due to lack of funds or lack of planning. Innovative organizations have the space for failure and experimentation. However, there should be a reflection of how one fails and how big the failure is. A great example of an experimentation space is Proto Village. Proto Village is a concept village created by Kalyan Akkipedi near Anandpur district in Andhra Pradesh. The main idea behind Proto Village was to create a community that could sustain itself for an extended period of time. Kalyan's vision is to empower these villages to contribute back to the GDP by creating specialized rural economic zones that link up with different self sustained villages.
A private sector example of a space that promotes experimentation are maker spaces. They are alternative spaces that encourage innovation. Workbench projects in Bangalore, for example, is one such space that aims at creating ecosystem for makers, where the focus is not just tinkering and making, but one that advocates research and responsible innovation. One of the government intervention in the experimentation space is Atal Innovation Labs. This is a government initiative to develop new programs and policies for fostering innovation in different sectors of the economy. It provides a platform where innovative ideas are generated and developed. The term innovation is often misused to portray any ordinary change as something different.
Technology has been the keystone of development and commercial innovation in the 21st century. Innovation and creation by itself is meaningless and even potentially harmful. It requires careful consideration of the context, area of interest, and the people it is meant for. This kind of careful consideration is often amiss in the pursuit of commercial innovation. A good example of innovation that failed to consider context is a system by a future group that was set up to help their employees acquire a business administration degree. The plan was to refund the fees if they passed the course. However, this plan failed horribly, with most of the students dropping out before the first year. Korean CK, who was working with the future group, reflected on why they had failed. I quote, "We had not considered how online learning was a foreign concept to a population that was still limited in its exposure to technology." Unquote.
From the liberalization of the market in 1991, India has seen growth in many different sectors at an unimaginable pace. With the recent advent of Geo, India's technological deficit also seems to be decreasing. This growth and innovation has a cost. A recent Oxfam report talks about how the elites in India have taken a bigger part of the cake in 2018. In 1 year, their holdings have gone from 58% to 73% of the total wealth in India. This brings us to ask what crimes have been committed in the name of innovation. We often see initiatives on the government's behalf that are being sold as social innovation models. Standing at 182 meters, the statue of Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel was built at a cost of 2,989 crore. It is meant to generate employment in the tourism sector. This structure, however, has externalized costs to privatize profits. The cost in terms of human and ecology has been terrible and has often extracted from those without a voice or power. Over 72 tribal villages were displaced to build this structure on a geological fault line. The permissions that are needed for construction near an ecologically fragile area were also bypassed.
I have noticed this trend with many apps that are used for security in gated communities. Technology is being used to substitute simple human tasks at the expense of privacy and overall well being. It entirely excludes the actual group of people who are being subjected to this service. It allows for the tracking and rating of housemaids, restricting their freedom and suppressing their voice. These apps often work as tools of oppression in the hands of the powerful.
In fact, Kaushik spoke about this while talking about how ride sharing platforms such as Ola and Uber and food delivery platforms such as Swiggy and Zomato do not directly employ any of their drivers or delivery boys. They are contracted and not permanent employees. These so called partners are at the highest risk of losing their well being and are deprived of any kind of job security, growth, or insurance.
Innovation in India must take into account the pluralities of Indian society and history. It must strive not to widen the socio-economic and ecological gaps that are already present. Inclusive innovation that is critical of the power structures of society and works to balance them is the need of the hour. It's common to find linear thinking from commercial innovation applied incorrectly to social challenges. In the social impact sector, change is often unpredictable, messy, and emergent. In a country with a large labor force, trends like automation bring the risk of widening the gaps between economic classes.
This is where we think that using design principles to lead innovation will be helpful. Criticality, ethical design, and speculation are principles of good design that can function as the voice of reason in the age of money.
Understanding inequalities and designing innovations that help bridge gaps in a way that doesn't sacrifice people's aspirations for a better life is a difficult task, but it is one we must undertake.
This is Innovation for Dummies. Thank you for listening to us rant about so many different things. We know that we still have a lot more to explore and learn, but we hope that this is a step in the right direction.
This podcast wouldn't have been possible without our talented design led innovators. Thank you for tuning in. We hope you enjoyed this as much as we did.